Hello everyone, Silent here and welcome back to another episode of Bugrock of the Week. Today we're going to be looking at the newest 1.17 betas for Minecraft Bedrock Edition. These betas introduce a lot of different changes to mob spawning in pretty significant ways. They also change several things having to do with Redstone, which is really nice to see. There's also a ton of quality of life features and bug fixes in these betas. Overall, just a bunch more really good things in the 1.17 betas. A little disclaimer for today's video, this is all in beta for Minecraft 1.17, so we should be seeing a new 1.17 update dropping here in the next couple of months with all these lovely features and so much more. Our first beta for today is 1.17.2022. This introduces some massive changes to mob spawning, Oxolotl spawning, and phantom spawning as well. It also introduces dozens of nice quality of life features and bug fixes, not to mention fixes to some nether-based farms that have been broken for a while. The first change in today's beta is that mobs will only spawn in absolute darkness, a light level of 0. This essentially makes it so that your torches and other light sources in the world are way more powerful and you need far less of them, meaning that lighting up large areas is going to be so much easier. You can play with mood lighting, have gloomy lighting, and overall mob spawning in general is going to be so much easier to prevent. If you want to see a full video and a full breakdown on these changes, I made one a few weeks back when this change was introduced to Java Edition, and basically the changes are exactly the same on Java and Bedrock, so go check out that video for more details. I will say right now that this change has basically no effect on mob farms, so don't worry about mob farms at all. The only thing that this might affect when it comes to mob farms is farms that use Nether Portals, because Nether Portals emit light, so those things will need slight redesigning, but otherwise 99.9% of mob farms are going to be absolutely fine with this change. There's also been a slight change to Oxolotl spawning. Whenever an Oxolotl spawns, there needs to be stone within 10 blocks underneath them. So if an Oxolotl were to spawn right here, as you can see, there is stone 10 blocks underneath them, so that is actually a valid spawning spot. If we were to remove that stone, then they would no longer be able to spawn there, at least telling from the changelogs anyway. They also will no longer spawn in bubble columns either, so it's a little bit more difficult to farm these guys. Not that there's really a reason to farm them, since they don't drop anything. There's also been a change to phantom mob spawning, so previously you could get like 30 plus phantoms surrounding you at all times if you were really lucky and there were no other mobs spawning in the area, but I believe now the phantom cap is 5, telling from the bug report linked in the changelogs. Either way, you're not going to get swarmed by armies of phantoms anymore, so that's a good thing. This next bug fix is a little disheartening. Previously, you could put down some water and then put some pickles into that water, and of course, it would be all lit up and stuff, and then you could remove the water, and the pickles would still be lit up and glowing, basically. But now, as you can see, as soon as you remove the water, the pickles unglow, so you can't have lit up pickles everywhere, which is really unfortunate. Now, lucky for us, we can still light pickles on fire, because Bedrock Edition. And if you remove the water, the fire is still there, because Bedrock Edition. They finally fixed a very long-standing bug on Bedrock Edition where gravity blocks would break on all kinds of things that they shouldn't. This has seriously been around since like Better Together was even a thing at all. So now anvils and any other gravity block will no longer break when falling onto glass blocks, which is amazing. And this also affects the upper slabs as well. As you can see, we can drop things onto those and it all just works perfectly. No more popping off into items, and it just removes one of the little annoyances of Bedrock Edition where you couldn't drop sand or whatever onto slabs or glass. It doesn't pop up that often in gameplay, but when you notice it, it's really annoying. So the bug report for this was made in February of 2017, but I'm pretty sure this bug has been around for much longer, and as you can see, all of these different blocks here have actually been fixed so that gravity blocks no longer pop off into items when they drop on top of them. It is a long list of items, and honestly, it is just so good to see. There's been a slight change to moss bone mealing mechanics. Now when you bone meal a moss block, it can replace tough blocks There's been a slight bug fix with Nether Portals, so they should no longer get split in half where one side of the portal is unlit and the other side is still Nether Portal blocks. This would happen when you would unload and reload the area with a chunk border that goes through the portal. So if there was a chunk border between these two blocks, then like the left side of the portal would become unlit and the right side would still have portal blocks. It was kind of an interesting thing to have like a halfway lit portal. It was a little bit cursed, but it should no longer happen. They've made some changes to glow lichen and vine harvesting, so now shears will properly harvest at the faster speeds. So an unenchanted pair of shears will mine at about that speed for glow lichen and about that speed for vines. Not really that quick. An unenchanted axe will of course still mine them instantly, which is very nice, and then an enchanted pair of shears with efficiency 5 will instant mine them and drop the items. Now a efficiency 5 axe doesn't really have any effect because it's already instant mine, but if you put silk touch on your axe, then you can actually get the vines to drop and instant mine them as well. So that is a much better way of harvesting vines than using shears. Silk touch axes do not drop the glow lichen. If you want to get glow lichen, you gotta harvest it with a pair of shears. Twisting and weeping vine farms have finally been fixed in this update. If you weren't aware, these were actually completely broken. So if a weeping or twisting vine was ever harvested, the base plant would never ever grow again. As you can see, this one was planted in a previous update and it's still not growing. The random tick speed is currently on 1000. But if we plant in a new one, that thing is going to grow up quite quickly, as you can see. We can harvest that thing with a piston and then it will continue growing. So now we can have proper weeping and twisting vine farms. We'll simply have to replant them in this update. So as you can see, if we plant in a twisting vine, that is going to grow downwards. We can harvest that with a piston or any other way of harvesting it, and then it will grow again. So of course, the best way to farm these things is to set up a large scale farm like this one right here, where you have a flying machine, sweep across the farm, and just absolutely annihilate like thousands of plants. In fact, you can build this exact bamboo farm that I have on the channel. You simply swap out all of the bamboo for the twisting vines, or you put the flying machine at the top of the farm, and then you plant in the weeping vines. And that is really all there is to it. It is such a simple thing to farm en masse. There's been another bug fix to armor stands, and now when they die in fire or lava, they will drop all of their equipped items. So we can test this out real quick. As you can see, he's got some gold armor on him and some netherite armor too. We drop him in lava, he takes some damage and dies like a player because these things are alive, and then as you can see, everything falls off the armor stand. All of the netherite armor, of course, it did not burn. The shulker box got destroyed as an item and dropped everything that was inside of it, which was all of these ancient debris and netherite ingots, and as you can see, everything is working as intended. Moving on to beta 1.17.2021, this beta doesn't have much in it that affects gameplay besides a change to structure blocks and to the crafting table as well. So the change to the crafting table has to do with the clock and the compass not actually being functional. So as you can see in the crafting table over here on the left side, you can see that the clock is pointing at noon, even though it is clearly midnight. And we can also look at the compass as well. The compass is facing south, and no matter where we are facing this, crafting table, that compass is always facing south. However, I have a little bit of a cheeky solution to this. All you gotta do is click on this item, and as you can see, the compass is now pointing to the northwest. Yeah, northwest. I know my directions. If we face this crafting table in another direction, as you can see, the compass is now facing a different direction, which is the simple workaround to still using a compass without actually having to craft one or have the materials to craft it. This also works for clocks as well. As you can see, if we click on the clock, that will now show us that it is indeed midnight, and if we set the time to noon, then that clock will actually be updated inside the crafting table and work properly. So there you go. You can still cheekily use these items without ever owning them or being able to craft them. This tiny beta also brings an amazingly awesome change to the structure block. If you're a creative player and you're not using structure blocks, you gotta be using some structure blocks. So what this change allows you to do is place 2 blocks in the world and automatically select everything within that area to save as part of your structure block. So how we do this is we go into the structure block, we we click on this menu, go over to corner, and then we're going to give this thing some sort of name. I'm going to name it test 1111 apparently, and then we'll go back out of this menu and control pick block this structure block. This will give us this exact block right here. As you can see, if we place that down, it says test 1111. So that is all there is to it. We're then going to go back inside of this one and hit the save menu. And now we can place 2 of these anywhere that we like in the world. So this one is going to be the corner of this structure. And then we can fly off to the opposite corner of it over here and place in our secondary structure block right there. We can now fly back to the main structure block and hit ourselves the detect button, which is a new button, and that'll automatically select this entire build that we have surrounded. We can also move these structure blocks as well to like that area over there, and it will update accordingly, which is pretty awesome. Now, if I move this one down into the ground a little bit, you can see that it's now going to start selecting large areas of the ground. Overall, this is a pretty awesome addition to structure blocks, and it's going to make life so much easier. Previously, you would have to mess around and fiddle with these little numbers in this menu just to get your selection area just right, and it was such a pain in the butt. But nowadays, it's going to save you so much time. Moving on to beta 1.17.2021. This one also changes some things with mob spawning, changes some world generation and world spawn point things, introduces redstone bug fixes, and gives us a ton of other very nice quality of life bug fixes. This beta introduces a really nice game rule to prevent griefing and other things like that. It is called Respawn Blocks Explode, and you can set this to true or false. I'm pretty sure it's set to true by default, but as you may know, if you are in the end dimension or the nether and you try and click on a bed, that is going to explode into a giant fiery crater. Really convenient for bed bombing the end island if you want to get rid of it, and also for finding netherite in the nether. However, this also affects the respawn anchor as well. You can click on this thing with a piece of glowstone, and then if you try and actually set your spawn at this thing, it's gonna explode if you're in the end or the overworld. But now we can actually turn off these explosions with this one simple game rule by setting that to false, and that will prevent these beds from exploding. Of course, you can't actually set your spawn at these things, but they won't explode. So this is going to allow you to protect your end builds and your nether builds and your overworld builds from various forms of griefing using 2 very easy to access blocks. There's been a small change to the experimental worlds of Bedrock Edition where you get to play around with the new terrain generation. Previously, the spawn points of these experimental worlds would be in a different location from the same seed that did not have experimental mode turned on. So they've now corrected that. Worlds with and without experimental mode should have about the same world spawn point as one another. Definitely the best bug fix of this beta is the fact that target blocks now work properly. Yay! Rejoice! So these things previously did not conduct redstone power, kind of like a piece of glass. They were transparent, but as you can see, if we power this thing with a repeater, it will now turn off that torch and power this redstone line, which is absolutely incredible and super amazing in basically every way. Now, keep in mind that these things also redirect redstone dust as well. So if you have like a straight redstone line, you can put one of these things next to it. It'll redirect that redstone, and then you can have redstone torches off of that, or repeaters coming off of that, or whatever kind of redstone you want, and it will all function properly. So it's essentially a solid block that redirects redstone and that you can shoot things at. It is such a convenient block for redstone, and it's really, really going to help in so many circuits. It's going to help compact a lot of different things, and it's going to be very useful in storage tech and tree farms and logic circuits, literally anywhere you can think of. This is an incredible block in our arsenal, and I'm so glad it has finally been fixed. We have a couple of scarily worded changes to how nether mobs spawn in the nether. So now there's going to be a maximum of 15 to 20 mobs surrounding the players at all times instead of 30 to 40, which is actually quite the significant decrease. It also says that nether mob spawning has been changed to closely match Java Edition, and it doesn't really offer any more details, because why would it? This is the changelogs after all. Definitely never gives us any useful full details, so we just gotta figure out everything on our own. Overall, I don't really know any of the details surrounding these changes. Again, they're not on the changelog, and this information's never really the easiest to come across. However, it will prevent you from getting absolutely swarmed by mobs in the Nether. I'm sure we've all seen it. There's just been an absolute ton of mobs around all the time, or if you're in like Soul Sand Valley, the ghast just respawn absolutely constantly, which of course has its pros, but also has quite a few cons, because no one is really farming ghast all too often. Overall, it should be a positive change, and if it does affect mob farms negatively, we can always redesign, build bigger, build better, or just, you know, live with having slightly fewer rates. A very nice bug fix that we've all been waiting for forever is the fact that you can now instantly break bamboo using a sword. Any kind of sword will instantly mine it. As you can see, you can use wooden, stone, iron, gold, diamond, or of course netherite. So this is such a nice change. You no longer need to have like an efficiency 5 axe just to somewhat quickly mine this stuff. You can just swing your sword back and forth and tear down entire jungles of this stuff with no hassle. Another favorite exploit that has been patched is the fact that you could easily break bedrock using powdered snow. Yes, snow was able to break bedrock, just like many other weird things in Bedrock Edition history. So as you're aware, you can put powdered snow into a cauldron, and then you can also click on the side of a cauldron to place another powdered snow. However, you used to be able to click on a cauldron to place a powdered snow above it, and that would actually replace the bedrock. However, this has been fixed, and you can no longer break bedrock using this method. Speaking of powdered snow, it can now be collected by a dispenser and also dispensed by it as well, so that is a great little bug fix. We have a small change and update to bee farms. Bees can now pollinate the cave vines and the glowberries, which is kind of an interesting thing. So now you can have a pretty high density area full of pollinatable blocks for all of your bees to get pollen from. You may not have noticed this bug, however, if you were to equip some Soul Speed 3 boots and then walk on some soul sand or soul soil, and if those boots took durability damage, you wouldn't be able to take them off. They would basically be stuck on your feet, and you would have to relog or equip a different pair of boots from the hotbar. It was a really weird and strange bug, but it has now been fixed in this beta, so you don't need to worry about your boots being stuck to your feet. So as you can see, these 1.17 betas are absolutely cranking out the awesome additions, quality of life features, bug fixes, and all kinds of other great things. Seriously, they are killing it with these betas, and I can't wait to see what features are included in the next ones. Otherwise, I hope that you have enjoyed today's episode of Bugrock of the Week. If you have, then of course make sure to leave a like on the video. It helps out the video and the channel a ton. If you're new here, then consider subscribing, and otherwise, I'll see you guys down in the comment section and in the next one. Thank you so very much for watching, and then there was silence.